For a long while, I used to think that bridal gossip was the worst thing My Little Pony Friendship is Magic related. The storytelling was lazy, the main characters were unlikable, and the moral was so underhanded that it went against everything that the series was set out to do. But then I discovered Friendship is Witchcraft, a series that not only has poor comedic timing, but also managed to be ungodly mean-spirited to what the creators think qualifies as good parody. But then, something reared its poorly drawn, overwritten head in May of 2013. It was the moment where I could safely and assuredly claim that My Little Pony Microseries number 4 featuring Fluttershy was the worst thing My Little Pony Friendship is Magic related. On May 29, 2013, I picked up 4 comics. Earth 2 Annual number 1, Sonic the Hedgehog number 249, New Avengers number 6, and My Little Pony Microseries number 4. The first comic I picked up to read, of course, was the Pony comic. After reading a bad comic such as that, I had no urge to read my other comics. I know what you're thinking, but Voice of Reason, it's just a comic intended for kids, how bad could it be? Well, when I deem something as the worst thing ever within the context of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, it has to be so bad it is insulting. Bridal gossip and its underhanded moral was insulting to me as a scholar and a college graduate. Friendship is Witchcraft and its alienating humor was insulting to me as a fan of parody. My Little Pony Microseries number 4 was insulting to me, not because of the amateur artwork by Tony Fleece, not because of its exposition dump wasting a third of the reader's time, nor disregard of continuity with placement of word balloons, but the moral about criticism and how one receives criticism was insulting to me as a person who exercises free thought. This insulted my belief in forming my own opinion. That is how bad the comic was to me. Now, right off the bat, I have a feeling this review/analysis is going to see a lot more downvotes than upvotes. Some of the opinions reflected might come across as ad hominem or hypocritical, for I am critiquing a work of art based on my own opinions and viewpoints. So, bear with me as I try to explain myself as to why I feel My Little Pony Microseries number 4's moral was more insulting than bridal gossips. So the idea of the comic itself is Fluttershy enters an art contest in Canterlot. However, she's afraid the judges and audience might criticize it too harshly. We'll get to that later. So she arrives in Canterlot with her extravagantly knitted sculpture on display. And here come the judges. Upper crust, fleur-de-lis, fancy pants, rarity, for some reason, and round critic, Praiser Pan. By the way, am I the only one who thinks he sorta looks like Super Saiyan Guy's OC? The weight of all the critiquing, both good and bad, is getting to Fluttershy's head. So much that she wants to destroy it. But she stops herself, saying she likes it the way it is and that's all that matters. We'll get to that later. All of a sudden, a familiar voice chimes in calling the work original. Why, it's none other than Princess Celestia. After she makes her observation of the originality in the work, Praiser Pan immediately changes his mind, critiquing its subtlety. So what's the moral of this mess?
I learned that you should never let your fear of being criticized stop you from expressing yourself through art, especially if you have terrific friends to help you do it. Even though I suspect they do not truly understand the artistic impulse that drives me, which makes them even more terrific.
Are you fucking kidding me? That's the moral. That's the moral of this comic. Where do I begin? Okay, let's start off with the premise for this video. Criticism. Criticism from my standpoint is a good thing for better or worse. While I do agree you should do what you love or do what you feel the most comfortable doing, other people's opinions can help you better yourself as a creator. Whether it's art, music, YouTube reviews, or any other forms of expression or entertainment, those outside opinions can help you better yourself as an artist. Hell, the microseries comic right after this one was in support of the idea of helping others better themselves through constructive criticism. This comic, however, is telling you to reject all criticism, even though it's primarily talking about the negative type. This angers me even more when we add in the continuity of the show. The idea here is Fluttershy, despite having a secret passion for knitting and art, is afraid of getting criticized too harshly. That's interesting, because if I'm correct, Fluttershy was free to criticize Rarity's dresses because it's what she wanted and suited for success. Yeah, what did Brony Curious call you again? Oh yeah, the think she knows what she's doing client. So let me get this straight. You're telling me that you're allowed to criticize whoever you want without fear, but when someone criticizes you for similar work, you crumple up in the fetal position? What kind of hypocritical jackass would do such a thing? Okay, you have a point. But let me address something and how my reaction to the criticism of my Friendship is Witchcraft review is different from what's presented in the comic. I admitted my mistakes, even if it did not appear to some people. I admitted to contradicting myself. I admitted I was more angry at an approach to a joke rather than the reference itself. I admitted I was an idiot for not recognizing a running gag when presented. And yes, I now realize that the element switching was a reference to the elements were sort of being reversed in the show. I allowed criticism from my audience to take effect and learn from my mistakes. Fluttershy, on the other hand, won't let any, I repeat, any criticism take effect because the only opinion she thinks is right is hers. This segues into my next argument, having an opinion. As a member of the Brony community, more specifically the analysis community, I contribute to the fandom by expressing my opinions of the show and fan works and passing judgment onto them. I critique and analyze the show on my own merits. But here's the brilliant part about all this. Everyone in the community will disagree with each other. Everyone in the community, analysis or otherwise, have their own opinions on the show and its other MLP-related works. For example, while a majority of people in the fandom are willing to call Sleepers in Ponyville the best episode ever, I considered it incredibly overrated. I mean, I still enjoyed the episode, but I found the dialogue in some scenes incredibly clunky, and the episode had the worst story structure to date. But I understand why some people enjoy it more than me. It lends to the spread of ideas and opinions to create a general consensus of what we as the community think. When you have several differing ideas bouncing off of one another, it creates diversity. More recently, however, there's this herd mentality I see going on in the fandom. People are willing to ride along the lines of every episode must be good because it's My Little Pony related. And I admit I will agree with the majority opinion, if not deviate slightly. But then if every episode must be good, why did so many speak out against the flawed message of Feeling Pinky keen? Why is it the majority consensus that Mysterious Mare-to-Well was a bad episode? Why is it a large part of the community had issues with the pacing and Magical Mystery Cure? Because we, as a community, expect better from the showrunners. We have the ability to voice our opinion in agreement or in protest. That, however, is not what I interpreted from the comic. What I read was Praiser-Pan immediately changing his opinion to positively critiquing Fluttershy's artwork because Princess Celestia called it original. Now, there are two ways we, as readers, can interpret this. One interpretation is just another case of the aforementioned bandwagon mentality. Praiser-Pan could just be agreeing with the princess because he wants to look good in the presence of royalty, regardless if he finds the sculpture good or bad in his eyes. This herd mentality was also displayed in the show with episodes such as Green Isn't Your Color and Sweet and Elite. Funny, both episodes were written by Megan McCarthy. Either way, the display of the bandwagon effect was in full bloom when the crowds changed their minds regardless of their initial opinions or understanding what the, let's say, band leaders' analyses were. Basically, the ponies are saying they like something because the most important pony liked it and not, I agree with their interpretation. They, in turn, become sheeple. Sheep ponies? Sheep ponies. Blindly following others without research or understanding the analysis presented. Something that's too often found within the fandom. Question, girls! The other interpretation, and what I can true from this comic, is Praiser was afraid to speak out against the princess. More than likely, he would have been banished if you were to say anything negative. And this puts the final nail in the coffin. Being afraid to say anything against the person with the highest authority is wrong on so many levels. Let's take, for example, two of the greatest film critics of all time, Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert. These two critics lived and breathed movies. While not everyone agreed with what they had to say about certain films, everyone listened to what they had to say regardless of if they liked or disliked the movie. Then the readers and or viewers took what information they received from the film critics and they either followed a similar line of thinking or deviated from it. Never did they ever think, if you disagree with my opinion, you'll be shunned for the rest of your life. There was never any fear if you deviated from their arguments. It didn't stop you from enjoying a movie despite its flaws. Take a look at Equestria Girls. My side of the argument ripped it to shreds, but there were people who liked the movie regardless of all the flaws pointed out. It also probably helped that there was a pro side and neutral side in the movie, but at the end, we recommended the movie for different reasons. The comic, however, demonstrates there is a fear to be had if you disagree with the higher authority. However you may interpret Praiser-Pan's change of opinion, whether out of fear or out of greed, they deny freedom of expression, freedom of speech, heterogeneity, and more importantly, they deny independent thought. There were two things I got out of reading this comic. Don't let other people's opinions help you better yourself as an artist, and don't formulate your own opinion because only the opinion of someone really important matters. Otherwise, you'll be severely punished if you disagree. I implore you, dear viewer, don't let the comic's moral dictate your way of thinking. If you have an opinion, share it. Let it be heard or dictated if you want to say something thoughtful. I'm the voice of reason, advising your intelligible opinions be heard.